I took the Inokim Oxo on some of the highest rated bike trails in Utah. Now, before I begin, Fluid Freeride is offering $100 off on all of their Inokim models. I'll have the link and the code in the description. Now, this is one of their latest models called the OXO. It was designed by an award-winning industrial designer named Nimrod Sapir. Now, he was the first guy to marry a Li-ion battery with a brushless motor. And 10 years later, the OXO was born. And honestly, as you will see in the video, it is an incredible scooter.
This thing just glides. Oh my gosh. I seriously can't stop smiling. I feel kind of like a dork. The hardest part is trying to stay on the scooter. It just wants to go. Now I have the shocks set to the high position, and that is for terrain just like this.
Now the suspension can be lowered using these two accessory pieces. They recommend making the switch if you do a lot of commuter or city driving. Now my buddy came down and he took it to the top speed at 40 miles per hour. I was not as brave. I've only gone about 34, 35, but we both felt it was pretty smooth and stable. Now I felt a little nervous just because I've never gone that fast before on a scooter. It just feels weird going like 35 miles an hour that low to the ground.
If you're worried if there's enough power to go up hills on rocky terrain, don't be. I'd say this has too much power. If anything, these hills are just nothing. It just eats them alive.
The OXO comes with two 800-watt motors, one in each wheel. If you don't need the extra power, there is a red button you can push to turn off the front motor. Now I'm gonna leave both motors on and show you a few clips of some first impressions from family and friends that came down for the 4th.
Whoa. Holy smokes. This thing is insane. You can like pop a wheelie with it.
This is crazy. Honey, this scooter is wild. This is too intense.
Holy cow. This is powerful. This is like a beast.
I had my buddy come down who is way into mountain biking. He took the OXO for a spin and had this to say.
One of the funnest times I've had on a trail. Whole new level of excitement and fun. You gotta hold on. I mean, I'm like, shoulders ripping. Like you just hit this little plastic guy and you just this little bloop, and you're boom, flying through whatever you want. It's handled really well in dirt for such smooth tires. There's so much response. It's just instant power. This is just do this instead of go to the gym.
There you go. That's your advice for the world?
Yeah, cancel the gym membership.
Cancel. Day 3 of trail riding, and I was starting to get a little wore out.
It takes a little bit to hold on to this thing. And I just went through some pretty crazy terrain. In fact, the terrain was so bad that I've already scuffed up the bottom of the scooter a little bit on both sides. I almost thought I broke the light.
I really like how much room the OXO offers. The deck is huge with enough room for both my feet side by side if I wanted. I also like the rear brake lever on the left side, which was nice for this hilly terrain since I didn't have to overuse my right hand. I had one hand for the gas and the other for the brake.
Through that last stretch, which is like 90% rocks, a little bit of dirt, it's pretty much like riding an angry bull. I had to kick my foot off quite a few times just to stay on the thing. It wants to take off without me. It wears you out, but it is fun. I keep on doubting if it's gonna have enough power to make it over the next obstacle, and it does. It really does.
Now they tell you to inflate the tires between 40 and 50 PSI. Initially, I set it to 40 PSI, but during my first ride, I was hitting some rocks against the rim, so I did up that to 45 PSI, and it has worked very well since. The OXO is rated up to 265 pounds and weighs quite a bit at 75 pounds. And even at that weight and how big it is, they designed it to collapse, which easily fits in the back of my 4Runner. The feature that impressed me the most besides the insane amount of power is the suspension. I hit some 10 to 15 inch drops that just felt super smooth when I landed. It was much softer than I thought it would be. The only time I bottomed out was with high peaked rocks or if they were just loose lying on the ground. I never bottomed out when I was going off a jump or a drop.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, it does give you a good exercise. You're thinking an electric scooter, you just ride it, nice, comfortable, relaxing ride. Oh no, After a ride like this, the stem does start to move a little bit. I did have to tighten it up after yesterday's run. It's doing pretty good now. It's not loose at all, but just something to be aware of. There's a cool feature that's built in that when it senses the light change, like right now, the sun's gone down about a half an hour and it's starting to get dark, it will automatically kick on the lights. So after last night's ride, that terrain was pretty crazy, and I'm actually on my way to the bike shop. It looks like I bent the brake disc for the front tire. If there's one suggestion I can make, it would be to add some sort of protective covering over this plate, because you can kind of see I've dinged it up pretty good. Okay, so I just got back from the bike shop and I was talking to a couple guys that ride these trails. They told me that these trails are the highest rated bike trails in Utah. I told them that I rode Carnage last night and they couldn't believe it. So I'm taking the OXO on terrain that you'll probably never see. I live in the Rocky Mountains, and these trails are definitely showcasing that.
Now, the OXO is a hybrid scooter with its 10-inch smooth pneumatic tires. I didn't do too much city riding because that's just boring compared to what I have across the street, but I did have a little fun running around my town, charging through the grass and off the curb. One of the funnest parts about the OXO is when you go into some soft terrain or on the grass. Initially, for like a split second, it kind of slows down, but then all of a sudden it just kicks on the power and it brings you up to whatever speed you have the throttle set at. The Inokim OXO has a range of 36 miles with 13 and a half hours to recharge, so there is a price to pay for that much power. So I've spent the last week riding this about 1 to 2 hours per day, and I found there were some things that they could improve.
The front disc I've already talked about, how it does get hit when there's loose rocks on the trail. On the handlebar, I noticed that the grip kind of moves towards the throttle. Right now there's a gap right there, and so the throttle moves nice and easy. But I notice sometimes this moves over and kind of pinches this, and so when I push down, it will actually stay down, which is kind of scary when you're going on a trail. So what I do is loosen that up and then move the grip back and tighten it back up, and it does stay pretty good. Rear reflector sticker is coming off. The last thing I noticed was this mud flap. There's a bunch of cracks right there, and I hit that pretty hard multiple times.
Now, other than that, I didn't find anything else I didn't like about the scooter. It just feels like a well-built and sturdy machine. And honestly, when I first stepped on, I felt a little intimidated. But once I hit the throttle and I got on the road, it's a lot smoother and more stable than I thought it would be. The OXO isn't cheap, it's $2,700, but I feel it's worth every cent. You will have a good time on this. Now guys, if you do want to pick this up, I've got the link in the description. I've also partnered with a company called Lustre, who has created a free tool that compares other brands. So if you want more info before you buy, you should definitely check it out. If you also want their recommendations or product analysis right where you shop, like on Amazon or Google, install their extension. The link is in the description. So thanks for watching, be sure to subscribe and enjoy your day.